Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. Alberta's Chief Medical Officer of Health has singled out Lethbridge as a city where COVID-19 cases are on the rise. Not everyone is in favor of receiving a COVID-19 vaccine shot. We hear from the pro-life group, the Wilberforce Project, about concerns they have. And an inspiring story about a Manitoba hockey player who is rebuilding his life after becoming paralyzed during a hockey game.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. Our province's Chief Medical Officer of Health singled out Lethbridge late yesterday as an area of concern for rising COVID-19 cases. Dr. Dina Hinshaw says 3 weeks ago, our city had just 19 active coronavirus cases, and now we have 464. That is double what we had in December. Hinshaw says a lot of the cases are linked to friends and family getting together from various households. Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman responded to the rising numbers of coronavirus cases here in our city. He's urging everyone to pay attention to what is happening here in Lethbridge because it's not the same as other parts of Alberta.
We are working together with Alberta Health Services. Our Director of Emergency Management and his staff are in regular communication with Alberta Health Services South Zone about what the needs are in our community. But we're going to rely upon Alberta Health Services to make those medical decisions. But certainly Lethbridge is on the radar. We're certainly high visibility now at the provincial level as an aberration to the provincial trend. So we may see the province take exceptional steps with respect to the city of Lethbridge and area.
The government of Alberta announced that close to 419,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccine have been administered in our province. That includes just over 92,000 Albertans who've been fully immunized with 2 doses. Now, there are certain groups in Canada who may not be in favor of the COVID-19 vaccine. You can include the pro-life group, the Wilberforce Project. Stephanie Fennelly is the executive director of the Wilberforce Project, and she explains why her group takes issue with the vaccines, in particular, the one from AstraZeneca.
The AstraZeneca vaccine has, in the production, development, design, and testing, the use of a cell line, the cell HEK293 to be exact, which is derived from the victim of an abortion. So that has been used in the whole process of this vaccine. The Moderna and the Pfizer, however, use that stem cell in the testing process only at the end. So for a lot of our members, the ethical choice and their conscience when they choose to use a vaccine or not is a matter of great concern. Jason Kenney just made it clear that that choice of which vaccine is going to be made available to Albertans. So we think that's a very critical step that he's made to ensure that our conscience, everyone's conscious, whether you agree with vaccines, what of these vaccines in particular you're uncomfortable with, but he's telling Albertans that we get to make that choice.
Alberta's Advanced Education Minister says post-secondary schools should prepare for a full return to in-person classes this fall. Demetrius Nicolaitis says the province expects to give all adults their first dose of COVID-19 vaccine by the end of June. He says that would allow colleges and universities to open their classrooms by September. Post-secondary institutions switched to online learning shortly after the pandemic began last spring. A school in Picture Butte, Alberta, will be moving to online learning until March 30th due to an increase of COVID-19 cases at the school. Holy Spirit Catholic School Division was informed of 2 cases of the virus at St. Catherine's School. Due to the school's small size and number of teachers required to quarantine, grades 9 through 6 will be moving to the strict online format. The division currently has 18 active cases of the virus, requiring the isolation of 490 staff and students. Lethbridge Police Service has confirmed the 5 employees who've been suspended with pay are all police officers. And Edmonton Police Service, who investigated the matter, confirmed to Bridge City News that the suspensions are due to some memes depicting the former administration in a negative light. Edmonton Police confirmed that in December of last year, the completed investigation was sent back to the LPS for review and disposition. Alberta's Justice Minister says he wants an action plan for our city's police chief in order to restore public trust. The chair of the Police Commission, along with Lethbridge Police Chief Shaheen Medizadeh, met with Justice Minister Casey Madu this week to discuss the recent misconduct within our city's police service. Bridge City News spoke with Police Commission Chair Rob Van Spronson, who says the chief is making it clear there will be serious consequences to recent actions.
I think the focus has to be on making sure that we ensure that proper investigations are taking place, that there's due process. That's what the chief has alluded to. That's his commitment to making sure that there's full investigation so that he has all the facts in front of him when he makes his decision regarding discipline. And he's made it very clear too that where the investigation has indicated that there are members who have breached professional conduct, that those members will be held accountable for their actions. And the second thing for us as a commission too is, and for him as the service is, what have we learned from all this? What are we learning? And to take action on the things that we've learned. So there maybe we find that there's pieces in processes or procedures that need to be tightened up, and certainly those things he's already taken a lot of action towards.
The Alberta pastor in jail accused of breaching COVID-19 restrictions had his hearing moved to Monday. Grace Life pastor James Coates has been at the Edmonton Remand Centre since February 16th. He's charged under the Public Health Act over allegations he held services that ignored rules designed to prevent the spread of COVID-19. His 3-day trial is set to begin on May 3rd in Stony Plain. The Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms in Calgary is representing Pastor James Coates. The group's president, John Carpe, says the province will have some work to do proving why it was justified to lock up a pastor.
The onus will be on the government for the first time ever to produce the science, produce the evidence, to persuade the court that lockdowns were truly necessary, that they are effective, that they're working, and that they're actually doing more good than harm. These are all points that the government will have to prove in court.
Alberta RCMP say a 57-year-old man has been arrested and charged in the homicide of his wife. Police say that Karen Jordan was reported missing to Grand Prairie RCMP. Investigators determined she was last seen in November of 2013 in the company of her husband, Paul Tomasi. Her remains were found in September of last year near Wembley, Alberta, following ground searches in the area. Samantha Barnes is a single mother with 2 young twins. She said her cold and drafty apartment in Lethbridge was horrible as she and her kids shivered through the winter months without adequate heat. Barnes said her repeated requests to get the problems fixed. Her landlord tried to end the tenancy, refused her rent payment, and allegedly changed the lock on her door. Barnes says the landlord then accused her of failing to pay the rent. Avenue Living filed a complaint with the Residential Tenancy Dispute Resolution Service, accusing Barnes of not paying the rent. Barnes filed a lawsuit seeking thousands of dollars in damage. The 2 sides have agreed to settle the dispute, with Barnes receiving a check for $20,000 and Avenue Living insisting it did nothing wrong during the tenancy.
It's very stressful living there. I don't wish it on anybody, which is why I really wanted to speak out, because nobody should have people coming in that much to the point where it stresses you out, to where you have to walk on eggshells in your own place because you don't know when they're gonna just show up to come in for another inspection, and they don't give you any reasoning for the inspections either. And then the heat on top of that, with it constantly breaking down, something I don't wish on anybody either, because living like that, and especially with having small children, it was horrific. I've never lived in conditions like that before until I lived with Avenue Living.
Avenue Living is one of the biggest landlords in Western Canada, with 10,000 apartments in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. The executive director of the Lethbridge Soup Kitchen has taken it upon himself to fundraise for the charity. Bill Ginther says the kitchen has hit various roadblocks with previous plans to merge with a mustard seed. Now he's requesting churches, companies, and individuals to step up to help feed the hungry.
We've realized it's a very significant drop in our donations since January. And we understand it's because of the fact that with our upcoming merge and the city's reluctance to approve anything, our deadlines for when this is happening keep getting pushed back. And I think people are uncertain, so they don't know what to do. Some people have shifted their donations to the mustard seed, or have said we'll wait till they start up. And so we are spending twice as much as we're getting in, which is very rare for us, first in our history. And so we decided that we should really put the word out there that we need some help. Very hesitantly, because we've had a lot of support. People have been very good about making funds available to us because they recognize the service that we provide is very necessary. There's a lot of controversy around working with homeless people. There's a lot of naysayers when it comes to even joining the Mustard Seed because of the fact that they are doing this from a Christian perspective, and we know that's going to be the case. A hearing is finally being held at City Hall on the 23rd at 4 o'clock.
If you'd like to make a contribution, you can always call Bill Ginther at 587-220-8688. The CFI Flight Academy in Claresholm is taking flight this weekend. The Academy is inviting locals to check out a free flight simulator training session. The owner of the Academy says that it was a long process to test out and build the simulator.
And the same is here. It was built, it's ready to go, and we wanted to share with anyone that has time and wants to experience how's the feeling of flying the sim. This sim is quite cool. It has like a screen of 220 degrees. It's really immersive. You sit down and you feel like you're surrounded for the sky and the flying is nice. So we were posting on Facebook trying to invite everyone that is interested to get a half an hour free. Come and see the school. We are doing some hot dogs for whoever wants to get some hot dogs.
The Academy recently completed construction of a new hangar in the airport terminal building in Claresholm. The Lethbridge Boxing Club says with the COVID-19 lockdowns, they have really struggled. The club has missed payments on rent and utilities for the past few months. A GoFundMe campaign was started to try and help them out. As Micah Quinn explains now, any of the extra funds will be reinvested back into the gym.
Rick Duff is a 5-time Canadian national boxing champion, and he topped that off with a 1984 Olympic spot. But now he's fighting a different opponent. The Lethbridge Boxing Club has come to blows with the COVID-19 pandemic, and costs are rising for the club.
Forthgoing, we want to make sure we catch up on all our bills and get into a good position again. And then the remained, if there's anything left, then it'll go to some sporting equipment that we could use.
Duff says that the boxing club didn't qualify for any government assistance.
We've been slowly, getting through this difficult time, and we just need the help to keep it going. So then people have places, place to come to vent out their everyday stresses and build on their confidence.
A GoFundMe was started for the club, which has raised just over $2,000 so far. Duff says that he's very happy to see the community rally behind the club, and anyone who donates can use that towards their membership fees.
$2,000 was raised quite quickly, and I'm very, very happy of that. All the help is amazing. I really appreciate it, and the kids really appreciate it.
To donate to the Lethbridge Boxing Club, you can visit GoFundMe. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
Reese Kettler was paralyzed during a hockey game in Manitoba at the end of 2019. Now this past year, the 21-year-old has faced numerous challenges during the COVID-19 pandemic. He has faced his problems head-on with strength and resilience as a C7 tetraplegic.
Thank you. On March 17th, I think it was, the hospital, a nurse came in my room and said, no more parents, no more visitors, no more anything. So I was in the hospital from March 17th to April 24th, so about 5 weeks. And when I was in there, it was a whole lot of just FaceTiming my friends to keep busy. I mean, Netflix, there was a lot of things that I did to keep occupied, but it was hard to go through those 5 weeks without seeing anyone who I can actually have a real decent conversation with. But I feel like it only made me stronger, and yeah, that's what I took away from it. When I first got injured, I had no control of my abdomen or lower back. And as I've been working out for the last, 5-6 months, I've been getting a lot more ab movement and able to twist side to side, and that's helped me tremendously with my stability inside my chair, even just reaching for items in the fridge or reaching for items in the cabinet. It makes a huge difference, and it's something that you don't really notice until it starts kicking in. You're like, oh wait, what's that happening down there? I mean, I've been in the gym before, so all this stuff isn't really anything that new. It's just using my body differently and the exercise differently. So that's a big thing I noticed. When it comes to pushing weight, I definitely don't have as much core strength to be able to stabilize myself, so I'll have to go less weight. But it's one of those things where it's you can either do it right, or you could either injure yourself from going too hard. So I tend to make it so it's difficult, but it's still like attainable, you know what I mean?
It's making tremendous progress. Great to see. We've all heard of the expression giving the gift of life when donating blood, but did you know that donating blood plasma is equally as important? BRENNA Scott is with the Canadian Blood Services, and she explains the importance of plasma and why it's so needed.
So one of the reasons that it is so important is right now the need in Canada is about 4 times greater than what we're currently collecting for plasma. That's why Lethbridge was selected as one of 3 sites in Canada to open a plasma-only center. So what plasma actually is, it's a straw-colored kind of protein-rich liquid in your blood that helps other blood components circulate throughout our bodies and helps our immune system.
Catch the full interview with BRENNA Scott with Canadian Blood Services Plasma Donor Center and Jeanette Rocher coming up later in our broadcast. Canada's Chief Public Health Officer says an increase in more transmissible variants of COVID-19 may be threatening the progress in containing the spread of infections. Canada's recorded almost 4,500 cases of variants. Tam says they're making up a higher portion of new cases in parts of the country. She says coronavirus cases are rising.
Over the past week, there has been an 8% increase in daily cases, with an average of almost 3,300 new cases daily. Declines in lagging indicators of COVID-19 severity are also showing signs of leveling off or increasing slightly. On average, over the past week, 31 deaths were reported daily, and close to 2,060 people with COVID-19 being treated in our hospitals each day, including over 560 in critical care. To date, about 4,500 variants of concern cases have been reported across Canada, with the B.1.1.7 variant accounting for over 90% of these to date. In some parts of Canada, variants of concern now represent a high proportion of cases, and the number of outbreaks involving these variants are increasing.
The BC government says 300,000 frontline workers will now be eligible for COVID-19 vaccinations in that province. That would include police officers, firefighters, teachers, and grocery store workers who are considered priority groups eligible to receive the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine.
Once we had a fridge-stable vaccine that would allow us the flexibility to use in more places around the province, we would be targeted at frontline workers and workers in specific at-risk workplaces and industries. And they are having ongoing and repeated outbreaks. They have unique issues where it's difficult to have physical distancing, where wearing of PPE becomes challenging because of the nature of the work that people are doing. And we know that they're susceptible to ongoing outbreaks, and poultry plants are one of the ones that come to mind.
Beginning Monday, Ontarians aged 75 or older can begin booking COVID-19 vaccine appointments. Adults 75 or older were set to become eligible the first week of April, but Premier Doug Ford says the province's immunization efforts are way ahead of schedule. Health officials say more than 50% of Ontario residents 80 or older have had at least one vaccine dose. A pilot project offering vaccines in some pharmacies is also expanding to include the Oxford AstraZeneca shot to anyone 60 or older. The number of pharmacies is also doubling to 700 over the next couple of weeks. Ontario Premier Doug Ford praised the United States for its offer of giving COVID-19 vaccines to Canada. In January, Ford appealed directly to U.S. President Joe Biden to help Canada by sending millions of doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine from a plant in Michigan.
God bless America. They're coming to our rescue. Thank God. I've been bugging Trump. I've been bugging Biden, all of them. They must get sick of Doug Ford asking for help. But our greatest partner, our greatest trading partner, our greatest friend in the world, President Biden, thank you. And once I get him, I will call you the champion. But I need to get the delivery first. So thank you. And I appreciate it. We've been waiting. That's what true neighbors do. You help each other out in a crisis. And I understand they got to get their people done first. I'd be no different, but thank you. Bring it on. If we have to go down there and pick them up, I'll drive down there in my pickup and pick them up if we have to.
Germany is resuming use of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine after the European Medicines Agency said the benefits far outweigh the risks. The move paved the way for more than a dozen European countries that had suspended use of the shot over concerns of blood clots to begin using it again. Canada was among the countries that had continued to use the vaccine, which apparently is easier to store than many others. A group of Myanmar police officers have fled to neighboring India after defying orders to shoot people opposed to last month's military coup. The military seized control on February 1st following the country's general election in which the NLD party won by a landslide. The armed forces backed the oppositions who were demanding a rerun of the vote, claiming widespread voter fraud. The Election Commission said there was no evidence to support those claims. The coup took place as a session of parliament was set to open. Myanmar, also known as Burma, has a population of around 54 million people. The main religion is Buddhism. The country gained independence from Britain in 1948. It was formerly ruled by the armed forces from 1962 until 2011. Mercy Ships and Cure International have announced a partnership to provide surgical care for kids living with disabilities across Africa. As we see in this next report, both groups provide hope and healing to children through specialized surgical care in under-resourced countries.
Two Christian medical charities, Mercy Ships and Cure International, are partnering together to provide specialised surgical care to children living with disabilities across Africa. Dr. Rick Gardner, Chief Medical Officer for Cure International, shares how Mercy Ships volunteer Dr. Sarah Kwok has helped to transform the life of one young boy at their hospital in Uganda.
She's been recently taking care of a patient called Richard, who's got a condition called a frontal encephalocele, which is a protrusion of the brain through the forehead and through the base of the nose. Hugely complex condition to treat, and giving him her expertise and love and really pulling him through a very complex operation.
Another Mercy Ships volunteer serving with Cure is Dr. Tertius Venter, who is currently treating children with burns injuries at the charity's hospital in Niger.
You see over the 2-3 weeks that we treat them, how their faces and their hearts change to happy children again, realizing that they've been treated with love and respect. And it really changes their lives. And you can just see them being happy children again in a very short period of time.
So as like-minded charities like these continue to partner together, it's hoped this unity in ministry will help to significantly advance God's kingdom. Peter Wooding for the Global News Alliance.
Great to see the work that they're doing in Africa. Well, we had lots of wind, some clouds, but still a nice day here in southwestern Alberta, and the warmer temperatures will continue into the weekend. A full look at the weather picture is coming up. We had sun mixed with cloud and a nice spring-like day here in southwestern Alberta. Jeanette Rocher is back with a complete look at the weather forecast. Jeanette, it should be a great weekend for maybe a hike through the coulees or even a trip to Waterton.
Yeah, well, I know I personally can't wait to get outside or out of town, but just to be outside would be so lovely on these lovely spring days as we are approaching the first day of spring this weekend. Just be aware, though, if you are going to hang out outside, that we have that strong southern Alberta wind that's still bearing down on us. We had about a 60K wind today that's going to continue into tonight. Into tomorrow, Saturday, it's going to be even stronger. We could be looking at 70km/h winds by late morning on a Saturday. But lots of sunshine tomorrow, high of 10 degrees. Into Sunday, also 10 degrees, mix of sun and cloud. Monday, sunshine, sticking right around 10 degrees for the temperature. Be aware also, Monday we have a slight chance, about a 30% chance of some precipitation overnight on Monday night. That could be in the form of showers or flurries, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. Into Tuesday, sunshine again, 8 degrees, the high 13 for Wednesday with a mix of sun and cloud, and a 60% chance of showers by next Thursday with a high of 7 degrees. So loving these plus temperatures, many of them in the double digits, some of them even in the teens, giving us way higher than seasonal averages for this time of year, which is right in this range. 6 degrees, the high temperature for this time of year, -6, the average low. 18 was our high temperature back in 2007, and it was a chilly -21 in 1958. 7:36 a.m. is when the sun rose today, and this evening our sunset will be at 7:42 p.m. So we're looking at more than 12 hours of daylight these days for our first day of spring coming up this weekend. A bit of a wet one on the west coast. Victoria looking at showers tomorrow, high of 11 degrees, high of 10 in Vancouver with showers as well. Edmonton starting out with clear skies with increasing clouds around noon, and in the afternoon they could see some showers with a high of 10 degrees, 9 9 degrees in Calgary tomorrow with sunshine. Both of those cities experiencing some gusty winds as well, about 60K in Edmonton and 50K winds in Edmonton, or in Calgary rather. Here in the prairies here, Saskatchewan, Regina looking at some rain, 11 degrees the high there, 11 also for Saskatoon. Winnipeg looking at about 60K winds as well. So it's a bit of a windy one across the prairies tomorrow. Over in central Canada, lovely day. 15 the high in Toronto, 12 in Ottawa, 8 in Montreal, sunshine. Over on the west coast, conditions changing quite a bit too from earlier this week. Fredericton, lots of sunshine, 9 degrees. Halifax, over their snowfall warning, sitting at 5 degrees tomorrow, lots of sunshine. Charlottetown also sitting at 2 degrees tomorrow, lots of sunshine. They were also under lots of snowfall earlier this week into yesterday as well. And then St. John's, Newfoundland, their rainfall warning turning into flurries. They're looking at 60% chance of flurries tomorrow, high of -4, and lots of wind, especially along the coast there. So I know it's hard to think of it for this weekend, but you know, those ski slopes are still open out here in Alberta. So stay tuned. We have your ski report coming up right now.
Today's weather is brought to you by ColumbianDirect.com. Café Coffee, specialty coffee from our family to yours. The week has been a beautiful one in the mountain parks, but many did not receive any new snowfall. Snow bases are solid with Castle Mountain at 90 centimeters, Nikiska at 120 centimeters, Sunshine Village at 185, and 143 centimeters at Lake Louise. Mount Norquay was the only ski hill that saw 2 centimeters of new snowfall over the past 72 hours, leaving a 127 centimeter base. And in BC, Panorama, Fernie, and Kimberley also didn't see any new snow, but retained good snow bases with Panorama at 62 centimeters, Fernie at 74, and an 80 centimeter base at Kimberley. And that's a look at your Bridge City News Ski Report.
Retail sales fell for a second month in a row in January, but early signs point to a rebound in February as pandemic restrictions on businesses eased. Sales at clothing stores dropped 17.8%, furniture and home furnishings fell 15.1%, and sales at sporting goods, books, and music stores dropped 16.8%. Overall, Stats Canada reports retail sales fell 1.1% to $52.5 billion in January. Federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh says ultra-rich families and businesses that have profited thanks to COVID-19 need to pay a wealth tax. He says that money should be reinvested in pandemic-battered small businesses. Singh is accusing the other parties of impeding efforts to push the NDP's motion of a wealth tax through Parliament.
While workers lost their jobs, lost income, and are struggling, while small businesses have shut down and many are worried about never opening again, they should not be the ones that have to worry about the cost of this pandemic. But those that have made billions off the profit of the pandemic, those that have profited to the tune of billions, they should be the ones that have to pay their fair share and contribute to the pandemic costs and the recovery. In all the public polling we've seen, the vast majority of Canadians believe it makes sense that those that have profited and made billions off this pandemic should be the ones that are paying their fair share, and that we need to close offshore tax havens, that we need to end the tax loopholes. We need a tax on excess wealth of the super wealthy, and we need to make sure that there's a pandemic profiteering tax in place that's temporary to acknowledge that Amazons of the world that have made record profits in this pandemic should pay more. People support it, but when we put this motion forward in Parliament, Liberals, Conservatives, and the Bloc voted against it.
Oil sands giant Suncor Energy says it is investing in carbon capture technology company Savante as it looks to ways to reduce or offset its greenhouse gas emissions. Suncor CEO Mark Little says its investment will support the commercialization of a technology that could cut the cost of carbon capture. Calgary-based Suncor has targeted an emissions intensity reduction from its petroleum production of 30% by the year 2030. Suncor's operations include oil sands development and upgrading, offshore oil and gas production, and petroleum refining. It is also involved with product marketing under the Petro-Canada brand. A global shortage of semiconductors forced Ford Motor Company to build F-150 trucks without some computers. The automaker says the trucks will be held at factories, then shipped to dealers once computers are available and quality checks are done. The lack of semiconductors also caused production cuts at Honda, Toyota, and Nissan. General Motors has also been forced to build trucks without some computers and install them later. Industry officials say semiconductor companies diverted production to consumer electronics when vehicle sales slowed during the pandemic. When vehicle sales recovered, there were not enough chips to go around. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 17 points on the day to finish at 18,854. The Dow was down 234 points to 32,628. The S&P 500 was down 2 points to 3913, and the Nasdaq was down 99 points on the day to 13,215. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up $1.42 to $61.42 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 5 cents to $2.54 US. Gold was up $8.82 to $17.45.23 US an ounce, and silver was up 17 cents to $26.25 US an ounce. Wheat is at $305 per metric ton, barley's at $308, canola's at $768, and corn is at $339 per metric ton. Live cattle were down 18 cents to $118.40, feeder cattle were down 85 cents to $134.68, and lean hogs were down 5 cents to $94.25. The Canadian dollar was down slightly over the past 24 hours to 80.01 US. Recapping one of our top stories this hour, Alberta's Advanced Education Minister says post-secondary schools should prepare for a full return to in-person classes this fall. Demetrius Nicolaitis says the province expects to give all adults their first dose of COVID-19 vaccine by the end of June. He says that would allow colleges and universities to open their classrooms by September. Post-secondary institutions switched to online learning shortly after the pandemic began last spring. Canadian Blood Services has opened a blood plasma donor centre in Lethbridge. Coming up, BCN's Jeanette Rocher chats with Brenna Scott from Canadian Blood Services about the importance of plasma and how it helps to save lives. That Q&A is coming up shortly.
When someone finds themselves in the hospital and in need of plasma, we tend to be very thankful for a supply of uncontaminated blood to help us out. But where does that come from, and how does the process work? Joining me now to discuss this is Brenna Scott, the Business Development Manager with the Canadian Blood Services Blood Plasma Donor Centre here in Lethbridge. Welcome to Bridge City News, Brenna. I'm so interested to hear all about everything that you have to say, and I understand that the Lethbridge Blood Plasma Donor Centre is the first of its kind in Western Canada, just opening up at the end of 2020.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you so much for having me. We actually just opened our doors on December 22nd, 2020.
Okay, so why was Lethbridge chosen to be the location of this first clinic like this? That's huge.
Absolutely. We're so proud that this is the first center here in Alberta, with our second one being in Sudbury. One of the reasons that Lethbridge was selected is we have a fantastic donor base. We saw that with our whole blood center, and we have seen a lot of those donors generously come over to our plasma center, and that has been absolutely wonderful.
Awesome. Now, can you explain why this is so important and what blood plasma actually is? How does it differ from regular blood that someone might want to donate?
Absolutely. So one of the reasons that it is so important is right now the need in Canada is about 4 times greater than what we're currently collecting for plasma. That's why Lethbridge was selected as one of 3 sites in Canada to open a plasma-only center. So what plasma actually is, it's a straw-colored kind of protein-rich liquid in your blood that helps other blood components circulate throughout our bodies and helps our immune system.
Okay. All right. So can you share how it's used to help patients?
Absolutely. So the collection process, very similar to whole blood. It's still just the 1 needle in your arm. You are in the donation chair probably about an extra 20 minutes than you would be in whole blood. And then your blood comes out and it spins in a centrifuge machine beside the donor, which then takes the plasma out of it and your red blood cells and platelets to you. This plasma is then used, it goes through a process called fractionation, and it's used to make specialized medicines for people with cancer, severe burns, liver disease, kidney disease, and a wide range of other kind of life-threatening conditions, and really helps people with their quality of life as well.
Okay, so is there a process that it has to go through in order to be administered to patients?
Absolutely. So once our plasma is collected, it's sent to one of our fractionation sites where it's kind of made into these specialized medicine. It usually takes about a 9-month process to be made into the specialized medicines to then be given to donors, or sorry, to patients in the hospital.
Okay, that's a long process. I had no idea. So 9 months.
Yeah, about 9 months, and it can be quite the process, but so rewarding in the end. Our patients are so thankful for having sites like these.
Yeah. So what types of patients might need plasma as opposed to blood?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So patients with liver disease, kidney disease, cancer, even some people with severe types of burns can use plasma as well.
So Brenna, does plasma also have different types, just like blood types?
It doesn't. It's not same in that way. So anyone can donate, regardless of your blood type. If you're eligible, you would be able to donate plasma.
Okay. Are there certain people or patients who maybe are not able to donate plasma? Are there certain restrictions?
There are, yes. So similar to whole blood, if you've donated whole blood, you are likely to have be able to donate plasma, but you don't have to have donated whole blood in the past to donate plasma. Other ones of our restrictions are you have to be at least 110 pounds, be in generally good health, and at least 17 years of age. We also encourage donors, if they have specific eligibility questions, to call our 188 to donate to ask about their certain questions before they come in.
Okay. Now, how often can a person donate?
They can donate a lot more frequently. So men actually can donate every 7 days and females every 14 days.
Okay. And then is there a shelf life for this plasma? How long can donated plasma be stored? I know you talked about a 9-month process, but once it's processed, what about then?
It does have a longer shelf life than whole blood would because it can be frozen.
Oh, I had no idea. That's so interesting. Now, how have the residents of Southern Alberta responded to the new Plasma Donor Center?
We are so thankful that they have been amazing since we've opened. We felt really strong support since day one, and we've seen that continue, and we're very thankful for that.
That's awesome. Maybe tell us about the new center. So you used to be Canadian Blood Services in the Lethbridge Center, right, in Melcor Center, but you're not there anymore and you've changed your name. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. We're at a brand new center here. So we're at 3735 Mayor McGrath Drive South. We're in the same parking lot as HomeSense and Marshalls, and we're very proud of the new building. It's beautiful. It has lots of natural light. Donors can see it from the street. We have free parking, and we do encourage you to come in and check it out and see what plasma is all about.
Yeah. Now, how many people can donate at the same time? Is it a larger facility than your old one was?
We do have 12 donation beds. We're slowly increasing how many donors each day as the staff get more comfortable and we get refine our process more. So it is a little bit bigger as well.
Okay. So how many of us actually donate plasma? What percentage of the population?
I don't know the exact percentage of the population. I will say that we have been booked strong since we have opened, which is we are very encouraged to see. Okay. But we are always encouraging new donors to come in as well. I know that a lot of people haven't heard of plasma, aren't familiar with the process yet, and they can look at our website at blood.ca to see a video of the actual process if they're a little bit nervous before they come in.
Right. I would imagine it's pretty much the same thing as donating blood, right? The same. You're sitting there, you got the needle in. You said it takes about 20 minutes or so?
It takes about 20 minutes longer than whole blood, so about 40 minutes on the actual donation bed. The one thing that donors will notice that are a little different is the machine beside them actually collecting the plasma. It spins very quickly in a centrifuge. It collects the plasma in the front of the machine, which you'll see as a nice yellow color. And then your red blood cells, your platelets are returned to you.
Okay. Why was the decision made to make the Canadian Blood Services? Why the change? Why was that decision made?
We saw that there was a growing need for plasma in Canada, and we do foresee that continuing to grow. So that's why the decision was made to open these 3 proof of concept plasma sites here in Canada, with our other 2 being Sudbury and Kelowna, and really try to help that need for our Canadian patients.
Okay, interesting. So how many units of plasma are needed throughout the whole country, would you say?
Throughout the whole country, right now we're taking about 63 donors a day, and we're open 4 days a week. So you can see that we are collecting a large number of units, as well as in our Sudbury site and hopefully our Kelowna site soon when they open. So right now the need is really high.
What might stop people from donating? Are people maybe scared of needles?
That definitely is one. There's kind of a variety of reasons why people might not donate. Sometimes it's just because no one has asked them, or they just weren't aware that they can donate plasma. We have had a few donors in here that do have a fear of needles, but they do want to give back and support Canada's Lifeline. So they come in and overcome that fear of needles. And I will say our staff are excellent at helping donors feel relaxed and calm and answer any questions you might have before, during, or after your donation.
Okay. Now, if somebody wanted to, if there was a viewer that wanted to donate plasma today for the first time, what can they expect? Maybe walk us through the donation process.
Absolutely. So when a donor comes into the center, they will first hit our wellness screening point. They will have their hemoglobin checked, they'll have their temperature checked, and will be given a mask. Then they'll be taken into our screening room where they will do a variety of questions, just making sure that they are eligible to donate. The staff will then take them onto our donation bed, which does look very similar as it would in whole blood. They're on the bed donating about 40 minutes, and then we have you wait there for about 5 minutes after your donation just to make sure that you're feeling okay, and then you're sent on your way and know that you helped save a life.
That's such a good feeling too, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Okay, now I know there's some technical parts to plasma. So can you maybe share how immunoglobulin is used to care for patients?
Yeah, so immunoglobulin is one of our plasma protein products that is used for patients that have immune deficiency, and they really rely on plasma donations to help with their health condition.
So Brenna, people may ask, how safe is our plasma today? Does each and every donation actually go through some sort of a screening test?
Absolutely. So pre-screening for eligibility actually starts even before the donor is able to donate. They are given a list of questions regarding their eligibility status that they do have to answer prior to being on the donation bed. And then afterwards, we do take samples from everyone that donates, and they are tested for infectious diseases. So all these samples are sent to one of our labs to make sure that everything is the safest and the top quality.
Okay. You know, Brenna, I'm actually curious about antigens. So I've been told that in the US, if someone donates blood, they can have their blood checked to see if they possibly have the COVID antigen. So I have friends there who have been able to find out that they actually carry the antigen just because they donated blood. So is there anything happening like that here that you know of?
I know that we were doing some tests in Calgary with certain ones of our locations for people that have recovered from COVID, but I can't say that I can speak well on that, but I know that Canadian Blood Services as a whole was helping to be involved in that. Okay, I found that very interesting.
Now, let's talk about volunteers for a couple of minutes here. So how are you doing for volunteers here in Lethbridge? Is there a need in that department?
We have had an absolutely amazing volunteer base since we've opened. We had a lot of volunteers come over from our whole blood site, and then we also had a lot of new volunteers as well, a lot of post-secondary students, and they are such an important part of our center. They make the donors feel really special and welcome and really supported in the process. But we're always encouraging people, if they are interested in volunteering, to go on blood.ca, because we'd love to have you help out in the center as well.
Okay, and then same thing, if there's any viewers that want to donate plasma, they can go to that same website as well?
Absolutely. They can go to blood.ca, or they can call 188 to donate, or they can book on the Give Blood app as well.
Awesome. Are there any COVID restrictions that they should be aware of?
Absolutely. So right now we are appointment only for COVID, just so we can regulate how many people are in the center at every given time. And then we do have a wellness checkpoint that anyone entering the center has to complete before being in the center, as well as enhanced screening measures in the center, enhanced cleaning, and making sure that all of our donors are appropriately distanced in the donor bed area as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us today, Brenna. This has been so informative to find out about such a fantastic facility right here in Lethbridge. We really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
The word cancer often strikes fear in our hearts. As difficult as these kinds of things are, it's possible that God can use these struggles for good. Today's guest has first-hand experience with this. Ingrid Simmons joins us from northern Texas, just outside of Dallas. She's a two-time cancer survivor and the author of Don't Let Sand Fool You. Interesting title there, Ingrid. Welcome to Bridge City News. We're so happy to have you with us.
I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So Ingrid, give us a brief overview of your book and how you made it through 2 bouts of cancer. That's amazing.
Well, in 2005, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and that caused me to rethink priorities in my life and different things. And then when I was diagnosed again in 2014, it really made me think, okay, there's more to life than just getting through. I've got to get through this, and I've got to learn from it. I'm not going to waste this.
Exactly. Now, the title of your book is really interesting. Don't Let Sand Fool You. What does it mean?
Well, I use the analogy that when we get news or we go through trials in life, it's a lot like a grain of sand. It's very irritating and painful, and nobody likes to deal with it. But the point is, you can learn from those grains. You can learn through those trials. You can grow closer to Him and find purpose in life, and not just go through the motions of living, but actually enjoy life.
That's amazing. And now you, of course, use that analogy of a pearl in your book, which is what you're talking about, being irritated by the sand, right? Because that's what creates the pearl. And you use that analogy to describe your journey. So how did you deal with that initial shock? And what did you do? What did it do to your emotions and to your faith?
Well, the initial shock, of course, it's always hard. Doesn't matter how strong a Christian you are, it's hard. I spent days crying, and then I started researching, and then I thought, okay, I know the worst case scenario. I know what I have. Now let's get to work and let's get through this. And so it didn't really shake my faith or anything, because I try not to let my faith be based on my circumstances. You know, God is good when life is good. But, you know, God is still there, and God is still good even in the difficult things. So I just have to keep reminding myself of that.
Exactly. And cancer, of course, is such a difficult battle. What do you say to those who believe that God will never give us more than we can handle?
Well, I think He does give us more than we can handle, because that's probably the only way a lot of us would ever turn to Him. Otherwise, we think, well, I can do this, but I don't know that any of us can really do it on our own. We need the help of someone higher, of the Lord. So,
yeah. So in your book, you write that real healings begin with trust. What did you mean by that? What does that mean?
Well, I think God doesn't always heal everybody, but I think you've got to have, He says in His word that He heals, and so you've got to have faith in that. You've got to trust Him that He's going to do what's best. He's either going to heal you miraculously, or through medicine and doctors, or by taking you home. But He is going to heal you, so you just got to have faith that He will do something.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Ingrid, did you have people in your life going through this journey with you? Did you have those supports? Because you mentioned that it's so important to have friends come alongside you to encourage you and to pray with you. Did you have that?
That's hard to say. I didn't feel like I did. I know there was people there that thought they were helpful, but I didn't feel like I had as much help as I needed necessarily. And that caused me to pull away from the church. But eventually I learned that's just not the answer. And so I did have a couple people, though, that I could look to for help.
Yeah, I would imagine going through something like that, it's so important to have a support system. And you didn't find that in your church at all?
Well, it was there, but I didn't see it or didn't accept it. You know, I felt like, well, it's too much to ask for help, or too much to ask another person to help through this. I don't know. I think it was there. I just didn't realize it. I had to learn to accept it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Sometimes we feel almost guilty asking people for help or asking people for support, and you don't want to bother others. So I can certainly understand that. Yeah. Now, Ingrid, you believe that each and every person needs the challenge of adversity. So this is interesting. Why do you think that is?
Because it helps you grow as a stronger person. It strengthens your faith. You know, the more you go through and the harder things you go through, the more you have to trust him to help you and rely on him. So it just makes you grow into a stronger Christian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Now, what are some practical ways that we can learn to find purpose in our struggles?
Well, the way I did it was through a lot of prayer. I spent a lot of time in prayer and reading the word and trying to surround myself with others who were encouraging to me and would help me. Not something you can do alone, that's for sure.
Definitely. Now, did you have family around you as well?
I did. I have a wonderful husband. He did an amazing job taking care of me. And I have 3 children and grandchildren, and yeah.
That's
My
amazing.
immediate family was definitely there.
Awesome. Well, hats off to your husband and the rest of your family. Absolutely. Now, Ingrid, can you share some of the most significant lessons that you learned in and through your hardships?
Well, I think the biggest one that was hardest for me to learn was I've always known that God loved everybody. He loves his creation, but it was such a generic thing that God loves you. And so I came to learn through this how God loved me specifically as an individual, and that he could speak to my specific situation.
And how did you come to learn that?
Well, because he spoke to my specific situation. Like the night before I had surgery, he gave me a scripture that was for me, and it's come back time and time again, and he's just really spoken into my life with that.
Which scripture is it? Do you want to share it?
It's Isaiah 43, 1 through 11. Even down to the point that when we moved to Texas, we had a son in Wisconsin, a daughter in Ohio, and another son here in Texas, and then we moved from New Mexico. And there's a scripture in there, and God told me one day, go back and look at that scripture I gave you again. And it said, I will move your sons from the north, your daughters from the east, and I moved you from the west. So we were where we were supposed to be. That was so specific to my situation.
That's really cool. Now, Ingrid, I understand that your challenges with cancer helped you to refocus your life's priorities, and we were kind of talking about that a little bit earlier. Maybe you can give some examples of that.
Well, one thing was when life would get hard, I used to tell my kids, life's hard and then you die. So that changed that attitude. I decided that that's not the way to go about it. So I just changed my priorities and made me appreciate things more and not take things for granted.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say to someone who is fearful and hurting from some kind of loss in their life? What can give them hope?
To turn to the Word, read the Word, pray, surround yourself with others who can understand and help you through. And I just think the more you read the Word, the more you say it, the more it sinks into your spirit, so you start to really believe it and understand.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you were mentioning that you are 7 years in remission now?
Yes.
Okay, well, congratulations on that. I think you mentioned last week.
Thank you.
Was your anniversary of that, right? So your first diagnosis, you said, was in 2006, was it?
2005 was, breast cancer, and then 2013 was ovarian.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, for that second diagnosis, was it like, here we go again, or God, what are you doing to me? I can imagine, like, a first one is earth-shattering and shocking, but a second one, did you have any specific feelings or thoughts about that?
Actually, my first thought was, what didn't I learn going through this the first time that I need to learn about God again? I must not have learned it right. But it just made me even more determined.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you almost looked at it as a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I love your attitude and I love your spirit towards that. And hopefully other people can learn from that and learn from you.
I hope so.
Yeah. Now, where is your book available, The Don't Let Sand Fool You?
It's available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble and a few other stores, I'm not sure. And they're working on Audible with it right now.
Okay. And it's Karis Publishing, it looks like, who published you. Okay. Well, awesome. Well, let me know if you, like, do you have any other specific stories to share about your journey with us that I haven't asked you?
Well, the book's full of stories. I don't know. A lot of people like the story about the bowl of rocks that I have. They're my memorial stones. Whenever God brings me through something difficult or my family, I write it on a rock and I put it in a bowl. And my grandchildren love to come over and go through that bowl and ask me, what's this rock for, Grandma? What did God do with this one? What did he do with this one? And so it's my way of passing down a family legacy, you know, of all those things that God's done for our family.
Ingrid Simmons is the author of Don't Let the Sand Fool You. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks for watching.